They say that highly emotionally intelligent people apologize in a certain way, that they all have traits in common, like the ability to listen until the end and the skill to walk away peacefully before things hit the fan. But I want to disagree. What I've noticed is that even highly emotionally intelligent people sometimes miss this one crucial thing that makes all the difference in the world: a specific communication mechanism that pretty much guarantees a successful outcome, whether you are the one apologizing or the one receiving an apology. And today, we're going to break down both: the hidden pattern behind fake apologies and how to recognize when sorry is actually a way out. I'll give you a powerful framework to understand what's really happening underneath, so you can spot emotional avoidance faster and know what real repair actually looks like. So let's break it down. Now, you've probably been apologized to without ever being truly apologized to. They said, sorry, the moment moved on, but something didn't sit right, because real apologies don't just end tension, they repair damage. The thing is, a hollow apology is usually not just a language problem, it is an empathy problem, because the moment someone feels exposed, ashamed, or emotionally cornered, their attention often collapses inward. They stop focusing on the other person's pain and start managing their own discomfort. Why does this happen? For many people, this pattern starts early. If someone grew up in an environment where mistakes led to humiliation, control, criticism, or emotional punishment, they may have learned that conflict is not something to process, but something to survive. So instead of developing deeper empathy under stress, they developed speed: smooth it over, end the tension, say sorry quickly, get back to safety. Which means that later in life, when they hurt someone, they do not automatically move toward the other person's experience. They move toward emotional escape, not always because they do not care, but because in that moment, their own internal discomfort becomes louder than the pain they caused. They may still say the right words, but emotionally, they are no longer with you. They are with themselves, with their guilt, their shame, their fear of being seen as the bad one, their need for the moment to end. And that is why the apology feels off. Not because there are no words, but because there is no real emotional contact. Real accountability requires more than saying sorry. It requires the emotional strength to stay present with the impact instead of escaping into self-protection. And this is where empathy becomes the dividing line. A real apology is not just the ability to admit fault. It is the ability to stay connected to someone else's pain without rushing to defend yourself, explain yourself, or escape yourself. Because empathy is what turns apology from a ritual into repair. Fake apologies collapse inward. Real apologies move outward. Easy way to check: the fake apology is still trapped in the self. It answers such questions as, how bad do I feel? How do I end this? How do I stop being seen this way? There's I everywhere, and no space for the other person's feelings and accountability. And on the contrary, the real apology crosses a line into empathy. It answers questions like, what did this feel like for you? What are you carrying now because of me? What would repair actually require here? And that is the difference people can feel instantly, even when they cannot explain it. Let's make this a little more personal. Picture this: Mary and Paul get into an argument after a party. At some point during the night, Paul smiled at another girl. To him, it meant nothing. He didn't cheat. He didn't cross a line in his mind. So when Mary brings it up, he immediately dismisses it. I didn't do anything wrong. But here's where the problem actually is. This is not really about whether Mary is right or wrong about that moment. It's about what Paul is doing next. He's not responding to what she felt. He's dismissing it entirely. He sees her reaction as insecurity, something unreasonable, something that shouldn't even need to be addressed. But real connection doesn't work like that. Intimacy requires something deeper: the ability to care about how something felt for the other person, even if you don't fully agree with it. Because the moment he dismisses her feelings, he's no longer in the conversation with her. He's protecting his position. And the simplest way to avoid this entire conflict was not to prove that he was right. It was to slow the moment down. Let her speak. Let her explain what that moment meant to her. And accept one simple thing: that, just like him, she has the right to feel what she feels without being judged for it. And only then move into what actually happened and what needs to change moving forward. So instead of rushing through it, they both slow the moment down. So what does real repair actually require? A few crucial things, and the participation of both sides. Before we discuss practical steps, it's crucial that you both understand that a real apology doesn't happen in a vacuum. It requires something from both sides. If one person is trying to stay present and the other is attacking, blaming, or escalating, the conversation collapses again. So if you are on the receiving end of an apology, your role is not to punish. It's to make understanding possible. Your step one is to create a safe environment that starts with creating a space where the other person doesn't feel immediately attacked or shut down. Not by suppressing your feelings, but by expressing them without turning the conversation into a fight. Step two, explain your pain clearly. Then, you need to explain what actually hurt you, specifically. Not just that upset me, but what it meant to you, how it landed, and what you felt in that moment, because without understanding your experience, the other person cannot connect to it. And without that connection, empathy doesn't happen. Step three, listen to hear. And just as important, you have to listen to hear, not to respond. Because if both people people are waiting to defend themselves, no one is actually hearing anything. The trick here is to take turns when speaking and do not interrupt, no matter how much you think you should add your 2 cents right here, right now. If you can monitor taking turns in conversation, you are already more than halfway to success. Now, on the other side, if you are the one apologizing, the outcome depends directly on how much empathy you bring into the moment and how well you are willing to hear the other person out and truly connect with what they felt. The real goal here is to learn how to listen and how to empathize. And if you are hurt too, to still be able to speak about your own pain through empathy and honesty, not through defensiveness or manipulation. Here are a few crucial steps that can help an apology actually land without crushing your ego or making you feel like you have to lose your dignity. Step 1. Ask, don't assume. Instead of explaining your intention right away, start by asking simple questions. Please share your genuine thoughts with me. I want to understand, how did I hurt you? Because at this moment, I genuinely do not connect with or understand how I made you feel this way. And then listen to hear. Do not interrupt. Not to correct it, but to actually understand it. Step 2. Stay in the discomfort. Do not escape. This is the hardest part. Instead of running from the discomfort, stay with it. Be still and listen carefully. Ask deeper questions if something doesn't make sense. Try to understand where the disconnect really happened, because that's where the repair begins. Step 3. Accept their reality, even if it's very different from yours. When you hear their experience, accept it fully, no doubts or questions asked, even if it doesn't match your intention, because the other person is not living in your world. They have their own history, their own meanings, their own emotional reality, and you cannot connect to that without actually listening to it and fully accepting their model of the world and the way they perceive things. Step 4. Don't interrupt, no matter how much you want to. This is one of the most important rules. Listen to hear, not to respond. Because the moment you interrupt, you break the connection again, and they will get defensive instead of opening up. And besides, if you let them speak, they will let you speak in return. This is how you create mutual respect in a conversation. Step 5. Avoid blaming and apologize for the impact. Once you confirm they have finished, avoid jumping into blame at all costs. Instead, move into genuine statements like, I didn't know it made you feel this way. And only then, you apologize, not for your intention, but for the impact, even if you didn't mean to hurt them, because the impact is real, regardless of what you meant. Here's a great example of what a genuine apology sounds like. I hear you. I didn't realize how that affected you, and I'm sorry I made you feel that way. I honestly didn't see it like that before, but I understand it better now. A fake apology sounds very different. Sorry, but you said this. Sorry, but you overreacted. Okay, I said sorry, what else do you want? That's not an apology. That's an attempt to shut the conversation down. It's basically saying, I don't want to deal with your feelings. So what are the main takeaways from this video? If apologizing in the right way is something you struggle with, I want to start by saying this. There is nothing wrong with you, and this is not unfixable. The fastest way forward is a genuine conversation, one that opens the door to clarity, understanding, and repair, even in very difficult situations. Just remember to enter that conversation with kindness and real empathy for the other person's feelings, because most apologies fail, not because people don't say the right words, but because they never stay long enough to truly feel for each other and understand what those words are supposed to repair. Now, knowing that you can actually maintain a healthy conversation to apologize or make up is one thing, but how do you handle a conversation in a difficult, highly defensive, neurotic environment where you get interrupted every second and your ego gets crushed? We'll learn all of that in our next video. Thanks for watching. Show your support, like and subscribe. One simple like tells the algorithm to show this video to 10 more people who might need it today. Love having you here. Until next time, stay calm, stay curious, and stay connected to your inner peace.